Welcome to Behind the Story. I'm your host, Eli Sherman, and I'm here alongside my co-host, Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe. And I'm very excited about our episode this week, Dan, because, not always, sometimes on this show, we get to talk sports, and it's very important sports week in New England.
Yeah, of course, we have the Patriots in the AFC Championship game and in a really good place to potentially win and go on to the Super Bowl. It's also especially fun because where we're taping right now, in the Channel 12 offices, used to be where the sports office was. Mm-hmm. And when I was a whippersnapper working here full-time, I would come into this office and want to talk sports with somebody. And our guest is who I would talk sports with every single day.
That's right. And for viewers of Channel 12, it might be a familiar face. Our guest this week is Mark Dondero, a host on 98.5. The Sports Hub. Mark, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you guys. My head is spinning being in this room and having it look the way it looks. It's so good.
Welcome back.
All right, thank you. Great to be back.
And of course, Mark, we are asking you on because we're talking about sports. It is, for sports fans, this is literally like the Super Bowl. Of course, it's the championship, AFC championship game. But I was wondering, because you, in your position as a radio host, you live and breathe sports talk all day, every day. You're thinking about this a lot. But now, all of New England, all of the nation, all of a sudden is focused on the thing that you focus on all the time. What is that like when all of a sudden, the spotlight is so much more on what it is that you are involved in on a daily basis?
It's great. Like you said, I'm thinking about it all the time. Football was sort of my thing when I worked here. I was a Patriots beat reporter. I was covering the team. We were in the locker room. From that perspective, I have my wife asking me football questions. My daughter, my son, they're into it now. So they're asking me predictions. And it's like, do I need to be on the record here with different things with my family in the house? So it's fun to be, see more people get into it, and more people that usually might not be as into it jump on, because this is such a big deal and such a big story. But nobody thought they were going to be this good. Nobody thought that Drake May could potentially win the MVP award. And I certainly, myself included, did not think that we were talking about a Super Bowl run. I thought they'd be better. I thought that they would generate some momentum, get to the playoffs. I thought a win would be ideal if they could just get a win under their belt. Make the Super Bowl? Are you serious? So here we are, and it's been great, because a lot of the people, when I run into people, I'll be at the grocery store. I don't even know who it is, but they've seen the post-game show or whatever, and somebody will come up to me and just stand next to me and say, "You think they have a chance Sunday?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, who are you?" Yeah, I think they do. So it's great. People are really into it, and I think a lot of people in this region, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but it's been a tough last few years. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, myself included, we took a little bit of what we had for granted here as the Patriots fans, at least. And to lose it really hard, and then to kind of get it back really fast, I think a lot of people are appreciating this even more than other situations that might be similar, because of where it was and now what it is.
So I'm a lowly Giants fan.
I know.
Although we've won a couple of Super Bowls against so had a good run.
But fame that you can get. Yeah,
right. Okay. But here's what I would say. I happen to be someone who I don't glue myself to, the Patriots game on Sunday, but I'm always paying attention to football. So I'm often in the car after a Patriots game, and I flip on Mark Dondero to listen to the post-game talk.
I appreciate that.
And what I wonder is it more fun when the Patriots are rolling along and about to make the Super Bowl, or is it more fun when, these guys stink, and here's all the reasons I want to vent, and here's all the reasons that people call in and say, fire the coach and that kind of thing. So let's talk about that a little bit.
It is more fun when they're winning, unequivocally. When they're losing, obviously losing comes in different forms. Last year, and some of the last few years, that was miserable, because we're talking about draft picks in November, October. Who do they look, who could be in the draft? What position are they going to get? Should they lose this game to get a better position? No fun. And that just goes on and on. This year, we've gotten to analyze matchups and talk about what things could be the difference to winning the game. A little X's and O's. Not that that's what I want to do every time I'm on there, but it's nice to be able to do that. Talk about the game. Talk about the different players. Listen to predictions from other experts and counter that with your prediction and see who's right. And then if they're wrong or really very wrong, kind of go at them, which I did last week, where one panel on ESPN all picked the Texans, despite the fact that the Patriots had just dominated the Chargers. Their defense played great. Nico Collins, the receiver for the Texans, wasn't playing. The weather, Houston, dome team coming up. They all picked the Texans. So I let them have it a little bit in the postgame, just because I thought that was a bit of a disaster for them, So we had some fun with that. So it's fun to be a part of that. Obviously, the fans are really into it. I mean, you wouldn't necessarily know this just if you're not listening to the entire show. Some of those games, road games, primetime games this year at Buffalo, at Baltimore, we would have full phones the whole night. People up late. It's like they weren't even in the car coming home from the game. Those were road games. It's 1 a.m. and we got full phones because people were so excited. The win at Baltimore, the win at Buffalo earlier in the year. They're intoxicated by the wins. There's certainly plenty to talk about when they're losing. And that doesn't all, I mean, sometimes that could be good in terms of getting people all fired up and riled up and calling in. But when they're winning, people are into it. They want to be a part of it. They want to have a take. And it's really fun when they're winning. It's more fun when they're winning.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you because it now feels like for the Broncos, their quarterback is out, of course, who got injured there at the end of the game, their last game. And, it feels like there's all this momentum behind the Patriots going into this championship game. Do you feel like expectations are too high for the Patriots right now?
Are they too high? No. I think they're pretty properly rated. We'll see. I mean, the best part, I was thinking about this coming in. The best part about this week, and I don't like the fact, obviously, that Bo Nix is out. That's really disappointing. It helps the Patriots' chances, but I want I want them at full strength. I want them to be tested by the guys that got the Broncos to where and that's why they're the home team this week. But I just feel like now here we are, the week's going, as you approach the game, more people can kind of talk themselves into thinking that Bo Nix could actually win the game. And he could. He could win the game. But he hasn't played in years. Literally years. He hasn't been on the field. So that's,
Jarrett Stidham.
Jarrett Stidham, sorry. So Jarrett Stidham hasn't been on the field since 2023. Right. He hasn't played. So it's like, that's a tough sell, and it's disappointing for the league. But at the same time, we're sitting here thinking like, are the expectations too high? The only thing I would say is a little stronger than I ever envisioned was sitting here saying that if they lose the AFC Championship game, the Patriots, it's a complete failure this year, which I'm not going to – some people have said that. I have not said – I'm not on the record saying that. But there is really no excuse. I mean, that's a backup quarterback, and you shouldn't – now, Tom Brady did lose to a backup quarterback against the Eagles, Nick Foles. However, Nick Foles, when that happened, had a little more runway. He had started in the past. He had played, I think, when Carson Wentz went out, it was late in the season. So he had a couple regular season games, playoff games, then the Super Bowl. This isn't that. So Jarrett Stidham Sean Payton is a great coach, offensively especially, but I mean, that's just a tall order. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we'll be watching, the NFL is a game of narrative sometimes, and he may be coming in with such a chip on his shoulder from sort of getting boxed out of that starting job after Tom Brady left and they brought in Cam Newton.
Yeah, and I think he was upset that Knicks won the job over him. And I remember him saying a couple of years ago he didn't, he's still confident and he belongs, and so he's going to have a chance to prove it.
The Patriots stink historically in the playoffs against the Broncos, so I mean.
In Denver. Yeah. I mean, Brady and Belichick never won in Denver in the playoffs. So.
Well, hold on to your predictions. We're going to get into that later.
Yeah.
We have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Sports Talk Radio. Stick with us. Welcome back to Behind the Story. I'm your host, Eli Sherman, alongside my co-host, Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe. And our guest this week is Mark Dondero of 98.5, the Sports Hub. Dan?
Mark, when you worked at WPRI, you were sort of notorious in some ways for asking some off-color or goofy, I would say, questions of Bill Belichick at press conference. That's kind of what your shtick was. You got a lot of attention for it. And your explanation for it was always, was, look, I'm not covering the Patriots for the avid sports fan. I'm covering it for, like, the mom who's watching at 11 o'clock and put the kids to bed, that kind of thing. What's the difference between the Bill Belichick regime and the Mike Vrabel regime? Is it night and day?
I don't know if it's night and day, and admittedly, I'm not as close to the Vrabel machine because I was, with Belichick, we were there. I was there every day.
You had to make news.
It was like a beat reporter,
yeah.
right? I can tell you what the difference is. The key difference, if you're talking about covering both coaches, Mike Vrabel will answer the questions. Mm-hmm. He will answer the questions. Now, he'll do it in his own way. He's not going to give you everything, but he'll be as respectful as he can to the reporter and answer the questions. He tells us who's going to be on the injury report, who's going to practice, who's not going to practice. Bill Belichick would never do that. He would never answer the question. So I felt like I had to kind of, you don't want to do this as a reporter, this obviously, become the story. But with Belichick, if he's not going to answer it, I wanted to be entertaining, so I would try to word the questions in a way that could be entertaining, whether he answered it or not. Yeah. So that was my approach.
And you got him to crack a couple of times,
there's a whole montage on YouTube of me getting him to laugh, and we had a nice exchange via the letter. I wrote him a letter after he wrote back, so we're cool. Yeah. But I just, I just think it was a different time. I had a blast covering Bill Belichick, and I thought those teams obviously were awesome, and I loved it. It was a way to be creative, and it was a challenge for me to try to make the packages that we would do at night and on the news here, make them entertaining, make them worth watching. I remember we used to be in this room, and when the story would air, I would hear Shannon Hagee laugh, and then I was like, I got a good story. If Shannon's laughing in there, and then because you would know it would hit. If she was laughing, other people were probably laughing. So it was always a challenge. I enjoyed it. I missed doing it. But I just think it was because I did it because he wouldn't answer, and I thought a normal question and answer would have been really boring. Yeah. So I tried to spice it up, and I got a lot of grief for it, a lot from some of the people that I work with now, and we laugh about it. And but I think in also a way people respected me for it, and I've sort of become known for it as a guy that used to give Belichick a hard time, and it was like, that was actually pretty ballsy. So it was, I think people liked that in a way, so it was good, and I don't regret it at all.
Mark, you mentioned off air that you were able to actually be there for the first couple of playoff games up in the booth, and take us behind the scenes there a little bit. What was the atmosphere like? And also, what do you think for listeners and viewers, like what would surprise them the most, that maybe they don't hear or see from that experience?
Just how animated Scott Zolak is up there. I mean, he is just, a treasure for Patriots Nation. They do such a good job. Bob Sosey, so well prepared, so good at what he does, and Zoe, I think he's a perfect complement to that because of the passion and the personality and everything that he brings. He knows obviously football really well, and he can call the game with his eyes closed. He's not doing that. They don't sit near each other at all, which I was surprised about. They're it's like 15 feet apart with a producer in the middle, so I was surprised by that. But they got the headset on, so they're able to converse, and Bob's got all his notes, and Zoe, I don't know if he has notes or prep or whatever, but he knows what he's doing. And then when there's a play, I was so mad because the game against the Chargers, I was filming with my phone. I was sitting behind them. We were doing the post-game show from there. So you sit in the booth, and then when the show's over or when the game's over, they set up for the post-game show. I was filming, waiting for them to score. And then somebody handed me notes for the post-game show. So I started to look at those, and right when I got the notes, May drops back, hits Hunter Henry. Zolak goes crazy. He's high-fiving people. He would have been right on my screen, like high-fiving. It would have been an awesome video. I was so mad I missed it. And they got some of it on the Patriots cam or whatever. But it's just such a fun experience to watch those guys do what they do, and they're so good at it. And now that the team's good and he's so fired up all the time, it's great.
Now that we've done so much Patriots porn, I'd like to change the topic a little bit to some degree.
Yeah.
You're in doing talk radio. One of the things that strikes me as someone who, obviously, I'm a news reporter, but I love sports, and I've always loved sports talk radio. I grew up as somebody who listened to Mike and the Mad Dog in New York.
Legends.
It feels like what they were always able to do, and this was true at EEI or at the Sports Hub here, you used to be able to have the newsmaker in the hot chair, whether it was, the commissioner of a sport or, the manager of the Red Sox, whatever. And now it feels like sports talk has switched so much to kind of gambling talk and a lot of, who should be fired today or who should lose, be traded. Has it changed a lot for you? Is it better to not necessarily have to do, the boring interview with a player as opposed to, getting to do kind of the outrage talk?
Look, a lot of people, for me, they watch me and they see I get animated. I have high energy, the passion. And what the problem is, and I think what's infiltrated sports talk radio is these hot takes.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I hate it. Okay, I hate it because people don't know, they don't understand what a hot take is. Okay, a hot take is not somebody yelling and screaming. Okay, a hot take is when Cam Newton says that Drake May is a game manager, or that Drake May, like some of the things he said this year. You don't have to be yelling and screaming to say that. It's when you say something baseless, that's not rooted in facts, or it has no business being brought to anybody's attention because it's just not real or not true. And I think people are so hesitant to consume that. It's sort of skewed who is, who's likable and who listens where. It's become such a bad black mark on the whole business.
Wait, so take us through the art, and then we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
The art of the hot take. What's a good, like, what I might call a hot take? What's a good hot take right now that you'd love to cover or have?
Like, if you said something, my favorite one is that Drake May is not an MVP candidate. People coming out saying he's a game manager, not an MVP candidate. That's ridiculous. That's not based in fact. That's not based in stats. And I don't like stats, but sometimes you have to acknowledge what's real, and that could be just somebody saying something to get a rise, because people will react to that. I don't do that. I say what I believe. Okay, and if I don't believe it, I can't concoct. And maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe in this world of reality TV, we need to be more on that side of things. I say what I believe. I say what I think. And if you're not doing that, I think that you lose some of the trust with the listeners, with the viewers, and it creates a bad situation for you. And that's why I don't get involved. Some people probably had success doing that, but that's what a hot take is. When you say something that's not based on facts, but you say it just to get people upset, just to get a reaction so people will come to you. I don't do that. People do that, and I don't think like that overall.
All right. Well, we're running out of time here, but I do want your predictions for the game on Sunday. Before we get to that, just keeping in mind, and you mentioned it off the top, but the Patriots are 0-4 in postseason games in Denver, including 2 AFC championships. And I like this statistic. They've played more games against the Broncos than any other team that has never been in New England's division, with 55 matchups. With those stats in mind, what do you got for Sunday?
Okay, This is a new regime. I think that was a Brady thing, a Brady Belichick thing. I don't buy into that. It's a tough place to play. I get that. I'm going to go 28-20 Patriots. They've got a great team. They got all pros along the defensive line, all pros along the offensive line. Their cornerback was the defensive player of the year, Surtain, last year. Great team, great roster. I don't know how you want me to come on here or anywhere and concoct some way or a path for the Broncos with Jarrett Stidham to beat the Patriots. He's a backup quarterback that hasn't played, doesn't have a real pedigree. I'm not saying it can't happen, it's impossible. I don't know how you expect me to come up with a way that they're going to find enough plays from Jarrett Stidham against that defense with how they've been playing to get the win. Even at home, I don't see how it's going to happen. 28-20 Patriots.
And wait, so did the Patriots finish the job, and do they win the Super Bowl?
No.
I say 66-0 Broncos all the way.
Okay.
Ridiculous. I'm going 30-14 Patriots. That is all the time that we have with Mark. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. Great to be back.
Good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
When we come back, the stories we wish we wrote. Stick with us. Welcome back to Behind the Story. I'm your host, Eli Sherman, alongside my co-host, Dan McGowan of the Boston Globe. We're entering the final segment of our show, The Stories We Wish We Wrote, where we look at other great journalism that's happening around the region and talk about why we wish we had written it. Dan, we don't have much time, so why don't you take it away? I love your first one.
Yeah, my colleague Stan Grossfield, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer, has a great kind of photo essay with Spencer Yang, who's this young Brown University student who was shot in the tragic shooting just last month, and sort of follows him back to campus and sort of what he went through and the recovery and things like that. Just a very touching story. It's on the front page of the paper. We tape on Wednesday, so on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting reading his essay or his column there, because as a reporter you're always wondering how he got access.
Yeah.
How did they, why did that student decide to talk to Stan instead of other reporters. And it was interesting because he had actually taken photographs of the volleyball game that were, months earlier. So he had made contact with this family and this player who was really into volleyball. Great photos, and obviously was with him through his recovery and then back to where all the students are getting back to Brown. My pick is Out of North Providence by our pal Ethan Shorey of the Valley Breeze. It is, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but I think it's Pate Dirt. North Providence residents frustrated at piles in their neighborhood, which is this lot that the town bought that they then were using as a disposal site for dirt piles as they were building the school, and it's had these huge dirt piles on it ever since that just have not been cleaned up. Right. And the neighbors are coming, being like, "What? Can we please remove these dirt piles? Would you like to be living next to these dirt piles?" And apparently, it just hasn't happened for years. And so Ethan did a good job sort of getting into some of those frustrations from neighbors.
I'm pretty sure my kid wants to sled down those things, but I wouldn't want to live in front of them.
Exactly. Good for that activity. Now we have time for we're doing okay on time. So what do you got for your next one?
There's been a story that's been kind of popping around for weeks now in Rhode Island about Maria Bucci, who kind of was caught on camera during a DUI stop in East Greenwich, and Maria Bucci ran for mayor of Cranston, kind of well known. From my knowledge, Barbara Polischetti from the Cranston Herald is the first person to actually talk to her and get her reaction to kind of how things have gone down, and calls for her to resign. And she's pretty unwilling to resign. I think it's really surprising that she hasn't been, willing to step down as the head of the Cranston Democratic Party, just because it's such a major distraction. But Barbara did a really good job of kind of tracking her down and really getting, I don't know if it's her side of the story, but sort of her unwillingness to step away.
Yeah, it's an interesting trend that we've seen with other elected officials who have gotten in trouble with drunk driving in the past. And the longer conversation, but DUI laws in Rhode Island do allow you to sort of plead guilty to one part of the charge and not guilty.
Yeah, I mean, technically the case was dismissed, right?
So there is true legal grounds to not actually full culpability to the letter of the law because of how they're written. Real quickly, my last one was out of Attleboro, where they're pushing forward with school redistricting. This is Rihanna Wen Watkins of the Sun Chronicle. Really interesting push there to consolidate schools, which of course is a big topic of conversation across.
Get ready for that story everywhere.
It is going to be everywhere, and a good job, sort of following that thread. That is all the time that we have today for Behind the Story. Check us out on our website. And of course, as always, you can download this as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. For Dan McGowan, I'm Eli Sherman. Thanks for watching Behind the Story.